One question I have is, I mean, this is nerdy stuff, but I love some of the stories behind things. You know, the whole idea of having a body memory palace that is numerically linked to the major, and you know has the sky, or I sort of translated it in my head as space, but nonetheless it comes down to S for zero. You know, and then it's just like it just seems to me the most brilliant way of almost tricking someone to learn the major by having, you know, your top be T and 2 be an N for your nose and that sort of stuff. Is that something that just spontaneously came to you, or is there a history behind that? Or you were in Australia on the beach and you just thought there's the sky and there's the sand and worked it out? I'm just kind of curious if there's a story behind that.
There is a story behind that. And it's a story I can't say that I've ever told publicly. But and I'll tell you the story. But speaking of being Scott Flansburgh, the guy I mentioned before, and speaking of Australia and being on a beach, I tagged in once. I'm sitting here, or Scott Flansburgh tagged in once on Facebook. I'm sitting here on St. Kilda Beach, you know, relaxing, whatever, having a beverage, and I'm like, I looked at Facebook and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm 10 minutes from there. The wonders of Facebook, the wonders of technology. How would I have known that he was 10 miles from me in Australia had not been for Facebook? So I sent him a message. I'm like, dude, this was 2009. We had never met. But we've been friends for years. But I said, dude, I'm right there. Let's go meet for the first time in person. And we went and we met, and the wonders of technology. So here's the story, though, for the major system. The major system is every digit has a sound assigned to it. 0 is sa, 1 is ta, 2 is na, 3 is ma, 4 is ra, 5 is la, 6 is cha, 7 is ka, 8 is fa, and 9 is ba. Well, that is something that has been originated a couple hundred years ago. The earliest writings I found of it were from a German memory expert, and I found that in an old memory book. So the major system is certainly not anything that I came up with, and you know that. Yep. It is, and it's not something that you came up with or any modern person did. We're all just using it. But when I went to work for Kevin Trudeau, I got to give the credit to him. He actually had the idea of using the body to trick you into learning the memory system. However, I didn't want to just take his idea because it's his course. You know what I'm saying? But in his course, he uses the body. His number 1 is toes, right. His number 2 is knees. His number 3 is your leg, but he had to call it muscle because 3 is M. His 4 is rear. His 5 is lungs. His 6 is your shoulders. His 7 is your collar. 8 is face. 9 is the point, and 10 is the ceiling. So I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna, you know, I'm not working for Kevin Trudeau anymore. I'm gonna start my own company. I love that idea of the body, but I can't use that because that's his. You know, you can't. He didn't come up with the major system. He didn't come up with the body, but that way is his. Right. So I was 22 years old, I guess. I was at a Holiday Inn in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I haven't had a drink in 19 months. But I was having a drink back then. I was sitting there, 22-year-old drinking. Like, what can I do? And then I thought, just do it the other way of the body. Do it the other way. Start at the top and go down. And I said, number 1 is top. That's it. So I need an N. I'm like, I need an N. I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect nose. I need an M. Oh, that's perfect mouth. I need an R. Oh, that's perfect ribs. I need an L. Do you want to use lungs? No, Kevin Trudeau used lungs. Use the liver. Then I'm like, 6 is joint. Oh my God, this is like so perfect. 7 was kneecap because I needed a cup. Then I'm like, okay, 8 is foot. And I'm like, what can I do? Foot? I'm like, no, you don't want to do foot because then that puts you at 8 already. You need something before foot. And I'm like, oh, the 2 bones in your leg, tibula and fibula. So fibula, 9, ball, and 10, I made it the sand or the ground. I later went back and added 0 is the ceiling. And here's the reason, the logic behind that is because we needed a sound for 0. 0 is sa. But if I just made, prior, Kevin Trudeau had made number 10 the sa sound, which I ended up doing as well. But I thought it made sense to have a 0 for sa. So that was new to me, or new to both Kevin and I, at making a spot for 0. Right. So that's the story of it. It was an idea modified from Kevin Trudeau that I changed and made it my own, which that's really all we're all doing anyways. We're making it our own. None of us came up with the memory palace. None of us came up with the major system. None of us came up with the PEG system. It has been around hundreds and thousands of years. So that's the story behind it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because my memory of Kevin Trudeau is at the beginning of Mega Memory in the book version. He has this list of the guys who taught him memory. And if you go and look at some of those names, then you'll see that they had memory products during his era when, he was a kid or whatever. And he just lists them in the acknowledgements right at the beginning, which I think is always an important thing to do. You might get a kick out of this if you don't know it already, but I've tracked the idea of consonants and numbers back to the Katapayadi in ancient India. So it's very old indeed.
How do you spell that?
I think it's Katapayadi, Katapayadi, something like that. I can shoot you over an email with the Wikipedia page. But in any case, this is all super interesting if you really get into it, because also the gematria, which is one of the names for the Hebrew alphabet, means every letter of the alphabet is a number and also an object, which might be part of the origin of PAO, or what you call in the course CAO. So yeah, it goes back. We are sort of all passing a tradition forward in some sense, and then because we make it our own, then it is better able to transfer to other people because they see the modification that the individual makes. But yeah, but at the same time, it always seems to evolve and change. So maybe we can talk a little bit about competition and so forth, because you do need to make it your own. And, there's sort of two themes in competition. There's what you've won in championships, USA championship, and then kind of a personal thing that you've done, for example, with the names of the soldiers. So I don't know if you see that as competition, but it seems like maybe they're related, or I don't know. What's sort of the, how do you think about competition? Is it a recognition thing? And in terms of recognizing others, that seems like it has a bit of a competitive element, just simply in terms of challenging yourself, competing with yourself, maybe for their.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm sorry.
I just meant for their honor, taking on a challenge. In some sense, I don't know if there's. I'm just asking: are they linked in any sense?
Yeah, I think so. But for me, it's competing with myself. I in jujitsu. Let's go. I'll start this question by talking about jujitsu. When I was and you get 4 stripes on a belt, and then you get the next belt. Right. So 4 stripes on a blue belt means you're on the verge of getting your purple belt. Your purple belt will be next. Well, when I was a 4-stripe blue belt, I had left my belt in the car, and the sun had made the tape of my stripes lose its stickiness, and they fell off. And I had 1 stripe in my blue belt, but I didn't care. When I walked in that class, everybody was seeing 1 stripe in my blue belt. Everybody was thinking he's a 1-stripe blue belt. I wasn't trying to be deceptive. I wasn't trying to trick them and, they're going to think I'm not as good as I am. And then when we go against each other, I'll be better and I'll have the advantage. It wasn't any of that. The whole thought process was, I don't care. I got that 4th stripe on my blue belt for me. That's why I did it. And regardless of what my belt says, I know I have it. Well, I went up to class for 2 months that way before my teacher ever looked at me, and he goes, Ron, where are your other stripes? I'm the one who gave you those. I know you're a 4th stripe. I said, they fell off. He's like, he went and he got them and he put them back on. But that was a moment for me where I realized, you know what? I do know humans like acknowledgement, but I personally am just driven by, do I know that I did it? I don't have my USA Memory Championship trophies out really anywhere visible. And I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying to be falsely humble. I know I was the USA Memory Champion. And other people who see the trophy might not even know what it means. So who cares? Now, when I get my new house and I build my new house, I probably will put them out just because I'll have more room or whatever. But here's the point. I've always been driven by personal achievement and by personal recognition more than the recognition of others. With that said, In 2009, I had or 2001, I had a blunder, and it was a huge blunder, but it lit a fire in me. Here's the blunder. It was March of 2001, and I was at a grocery store, and I picked up the Guinness Book of World Records, and it said, Gert Mettring broke a world record by memorizing a 28-digit number, and the digits were flashed on the screen for 3 seconds. Well, me totally misreading that, not thinking it was possible to memorize a 28-digit number in 3 seconds. I interpreted that to mean a digit was flashed on the screen for 3 seconds, it went away. Another digit, 3 seconds, and it went away. Another digit, 3 seconds, and it went away. So it was a minute and 20 something seconds or something like that, 21 seconds. I didn't do the math that quickly. So I thought, I can do that. I can memorize a 28, 27-digit number in a minute and 20 something seconds. So I called up a TV show, the local Fox affiliate TV station. They had me on. They read out digits in pairs of 2. I listened to them. I repeated the number. I memorized it in a minute and 15 seconds. And so in my mind, I'd broken the Guinness record. What do? I go to all, my websites, everything, Guinness World Record breaker. And I did that for a year. And then finally, being the disorganized self that I am, I got around to telling Guinness, hey, I need my certificate. I broke the record. Here's the video. They emailed me back and said, nice accomplishment, Ron, but that ain't even close to the record. The digits were flashed on the screen for 3 seconds total. He memorized, it was 28 digits or 27 digits. It went away, and then he repeated it. And I was like, oh, my God. Number one, you've got to be kidding me. That's insane. Number two, I'm a fraud, not intentionally. But now I have placed myself in this category of memory experts, and there are a few out there, and nobody's name is worth mentioning, that will claim to do memory things that they didn't actually do. I'm like, oh my God, I am now in that category, and it was so unintentional. I deleted every trace of it off of my website, and I thought, this is not the legacy that I want. I need something. I need to prove that I am who I said I was. And just about that time, I see an advertisement for the USA Memory Championship, an online story on AOL.com. Right. I thought, this is it. This is how I redeem myself. This is how I prove I am a memory expert, and I just made an honest mistake. So I trained to win the tournament, and I did win it, and it was for myself. It was to validate that I am who I said I was. I just made an honest mistake. And that was a big part of my motivation. The Afghanistan memory wall, where I memorized everybody who died in the war in Afghanistan, it was the same thing. I just wanted to honor those folks, and I wanted no recognition for it other than to say that I did it. And that's what I did.